Good afternoon, Michael. Thanks for joining us here on the new crew in WEEI Afternoons. Me, Ted Johnson, your buddy from
Michael, yes.
Past Endeavors, and Nick Fitzy Stevens.
What's up,
so I guess right out the gates here, Michael. How are we feeling about this coaching staff that has come together? And we all know about the coordinators. We know about Mike Vrabel. But you being the detail-oriented man that you are covering the Patriots beat, which lesser name might have you most excited or intrigued as Mike Vrabel puts his coaching staff together?
I'm really into Terrell Williams, the defensive coordinator. And now it's more of a bigger position, but I just, having talked to people in Tennessee that played for him, having been down there for a few years to cover them, then talking to some people in Detroit about it, like, it feels like he should have had this job a long time ago, somewhere, in some way, shape, or form. And Vrabel championed his cause, and now here he is. And, to have Mike be able to oversee what he wants on defense, but for Terrell to have the 6 years of experience with him, having a good idea of what he wants, should make for a significantly better defense and a significantly better marriage than we saw last year between Gerard Mayo, also technically a defensive head coach, and DeMarcus Covington, also a first-year defensive coordinator.
Hey, Michael, Josh McDaniels, do you have a problem with it? Some people do. I don't. I think it would probably made the most sense. And I think he can get the best out of Drake May. A lot of people around the NFL kind of maybe rolled their eyes to that hire. But what your thoughts with Josh McDaniels coming back?
So I would have loved to have seen them talk to a couple of the LA guys, Nick Caley, bring him back, talk to him again. If Ragone, the quarterback's coach, if they wanted to bring him in, do something of that nature, because it feels like, doesn't feel like, the league has headed in that direction. The West Coast offense is sort of the McVay-Shanahan tree. But the thing about Josh is, we look at it and say, well, he plays one way, or this is what his offense is. I don't think you know what his offense is. And I think he's changed his offense over time to fit his personnel. So to me, that's kind of exciting. Like, what's he going to do? I know he was watching. I know he spent time studying tape long before he was the OC. What does he see there? What does he think he needs? And like, how will he tailor the offense to Drake May and his skill set? Because obviously there's more there, and he's now coming aboard and trying to pull it out of him. And I think if Drake embraces that, it could be a hell of a marriage. I mean, look, who better to have than someone who coached the greatest quarterback of all time to coach this next guy who has talent to be in the conversation as a top 5 quarterback? Like, that to me is awesome. And if Drake embraces that, embraces the coaching, and puts in the extra work that guys like Mahomes and Allen and Brady did back in the day, then why can't he get there?
Mike, I was all ready to ask you the same question I asked Tom Curran yesterday, which was, where would you believe that the impact of Mike Vrabel would be first felt in the room or within the organization? I imagine you might say something akin to what Tom said, which would be like discipline and organization. And so to that point, I'd actually like to follow through on something that we learned today when Jabril Peppers had all the charges against him dropped. We learned that probably about like 2+ hours ago. Had you heard anything about like how the team felt about this now? And do you think now, as we move into the Mike Vrabel era, will he want to just say, sorry, man, I know you're a hell of a football player, but we can't have that around? Or would he maybe get a second chance after he gets could meet Jennings and, excuse me, I did it again, Terrell Williams, God. After he has a chance to, because I have the running back they should have been handing the ball to during the tank game against the Bills on the mind. Terrell Williams and Mike Vrabel.
I wanted to call him Terrell Edmonds, who's another former, or maybe he's even still in the league. Like, so I do have to kind of, every time I say it, I'm like, did I just say Williams or did I say Edmonds? I got to make sure I get that right. I'm just planting that in your head now, Fitzy. That'll give you another one to now veer off. I think he gets a second. I think he gets a second chance. I do. I think and I think the leash is short. Like, I think he's at 2 strikes and anything close and you're out. So, but clean slate, with the exception of we know what your past history is. But it's now, what do you do when you come in the door? And look, they're in a position where they need more good players, not less. Mm-hmm. So he was someone that teammates believed was a captain-worthy player last year before this all went down, and I would think that he will at least get an opportunity to prove that he belongs, and this was a one-time thing, if you will.
Michael, I posed a question to these guys yesterday that just kind of hit me, and they went in one direction, and you may go that same way. But if you could have a home run offseason, nail the hell out of it, Elliot Wolf, in just one area. He either nails his $130 million of spending or he nails his draft. Which would you prefer?
Nail the draft, because then you're talking about cost control players for 4 to 5 years and the ability to sort of build this next core almost on the same timetable, basically, that Drake is, you know, and to me, that's sustainable. And then that becomes, you know, we talk like, oh, well, it's Vrabel and Drake. Does that create some buzz for free agents? No, you know what creates buzz? A good football team and one that's building in the right direction. And there'll be guys that look at that and say, if they nail it, as you're talking about pie in the sky thing here, if they nail that, then all of a sudden people will look at them and go, man, that roster, you know, like that's a loaded roster. Like maybe I'm the guy, I'm the next piece. I push it across the finish line, that sort of thing. And I think that would be more attractive than, you know, dominating free agency, because I think there's a cap on what those players are. I think there's a reason why most of them get to free agency, right? So they might give you that boost in the short term, but I don't think those are long-term fixes.
Michael, I want to take just a right turn and kind of look at the games on Sunday. I'm kind of fascinated by both of these games. I think there's intriguing storylines with all the teams and kind of where they are with their quarterbacks. And just how do you see the AFC championship playing out? You know, Josh Allen 0-3 against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in his playoff career against them. Is this the year the Bills finally beat the Chiefs? How do you see that game playing out?
So it feels like this is their best opportunity. And look, they came within 13 seconds a few years ago, and I thought that team was probably good enough to win a Super Bowl. And had they won that game, they probably would have won the Super Bowl. But now it's almost like the way they've sort of rejiggered this team after the trade of Allen and the way the offense is more balanced. They may not be as explosive in terms of individual player, but there's more balance there, and it's taken some weight off of Allen's shoulders, so he doesn't have to be Superman every single week and like every single big moment. He obviously is very much capable of doing that. In fact, he did it against Kansas City when they played in Week 11. But to me, it's like it feels like this is the time. You know, if you're ever going to get them, this would be the time to get them, because let's face it, they've won a lot of games, Kansas City, this year, but this isn't the same Kansas City team. Actually hasn't been really for the last 2 years, and they won a Super Bowl last year. So you still got to go there and do it, but it feels like this one lines up for them to have the opportunity to get it done.
The handsomest man in all of Boston sports journalism, Mike Giardi from Boston Sports Journal, joining WEEI Afternoons with Hart, Fitzy, and Johnson. Mike, I know you do that great podcast, All 32, with our pal Will Parkinson, and you obviously, thanks to his coverage of the Jets, get a feel for how everybody down there in Gangrene Nation feels. So with them hiring Aaron Glenn, but having a lot of questions surrounding them, versus Patriots feeling really good about locking in Vrabel and Josh and Terrell Williams and more. Nice. Who do you think right now? Jets have a better roster, though, but maybe a few more coaching issues and GM issues. So who do you think going forward? Because, you know, we believe the Pats are going to try to chase a wild card berth next year, perhaps. Who do you think going forward, as of like right now, is in a better overall position, the Jets or the Pats?
I think it's the Pats, because you think you have a quarterback, and the Jets have no idea what they're going to do at quarterback. I mean, I expect that Aaron Rodgers is going to retire, and if he doesn't, he's certainly not going to be back in New York. So you have that aspect of it. I think the coaches are similar. I mean, obviously Mike has the head coaching experience for 6 years, but sort of similar in terms of order, discipline, a defensive foundation. Like, that's where Aaron Glenn's coming from. I know that, look, I think in New York, their first choice was Mike Vrabel. And when the Patriots moved on from Gerard Mayo, they were like, oh, shoot, we're not going to get Mike Vrabel. What's the next place to go? And they get a former player who was a great for them and who has paid his dues, went through scouting and as assistant coach, coaching DBs, to becoming the defensive coordinator and now a head coach. They feel like they're in a good position. He's got to go find a quarterback, though, and he's got to find an offensive coordinator to pair with him. Nick Caley's been a name that's come up, former Patriot assistant. I mentioned him earlier. Like, that would be interesting, because if you're going to bring in Nick, first-time head coach, first-time play caller, okay, well then you've got to support him on another level with a veteran assistant coach who's coached offense for a long time. Todd Haley's a name that's been out there. I don't know too many people that actually like Todd Haley, but nonetheless, nonetheless, that's a name that's been out there. Of course, he was the head coach for Pioli for a couple of years in Kansas City and had been an OC for a bunch of years.
Mike, it's way too early to ask this question, but Adam Schefter created a little buzz this week out of Tennessee because Tennessee said they won't pass on a generational talent, and now there's this fear that maybe one of the Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter pairing go number 1 overall. Maybe the other one goes 2. Are the quarterbacks not that good? Have you even started to theorize sort of what might be on the Patriots' plate and opportunities at number 4?
Well, sadly, I think that the number 1 pick and that what they were referencing there was Abdul Carter, and not Travis Hunter. So, that to me, I think I mentioned it to you guys like 3 months ago. Like, to me, when you're talking about the lack of blue chippers in the draft, it felt like at that point he was going to be around 3, 4, 5, and like, oh no, you take that guy, and you're like, you can't do that. You need a tackle. Well, it doesn't appear there is a tackle worthy of taking in the top 5, so that's a problem. Then the question becomes for me, if the quarterbacks teams end up overdrafting quarterbacks as they should do, as they always do, and shouldn't in this class. I don't like any of them, quite frankly, at least not the top guys that go in the first round. Then the question is, what is Travis Hunter? I've had someone compare him to Garrett Wilson, like same body type, same sort of body control. If you told me that you were drafting Garrett Wilson at number 4, I'd sign up, even though I need a tackle. We all agree they need 2, right?
Yeah.
But to me, you're not probably going to pass that up. The question is, other people think he's the cornerback, and that he'll double as come on the field on third downs, play 10, 12 snaps as a receiver, and then to me that's like, ooh, again, he's still a blue chipper, so there's going to be that lure, but that's far less of a need. And then that to me becomes, okay, maybe we go back a few spots. Maybe we take the tackle that might be a guard, but pick up another pick or 2 and go at that route. So I think it's going to be challenging for them, because I think the Carter thing caught buzz, and he got a lot of hype too for playing hurt in the postseason games and playing awesome in the postseason games.
He showed out for sure.
Damn it.
It's the draft's going to be fascinating for sure, Mike. And you know what? Another kind of fascinating bit of news today, I think, a little bit. Just a side note, I find the Jags hiring Liam Cohen literally the day after they fire Trent Baalke kind of funny. Trent Baalke's gone. Oh, everybody wants to coach there for the Jaguars, but
you don't
say. I want to focus on what the Raiders are doing. I mean, Raiders. How about 74-year-old Pete Carroll, my old coach Pete Carroll, going there? You're reading that maybe TB12 didn't really have much influence over that hire. Maybe he did over the general manager that they hired there, but not with the coaching. Just your thoughts on Pete Carroll going to the Raiders, and do you see him going there as any kind of indictment on maybe Bill Belichick? And does that say something to how teams felt about Bill Belichick in the NFL?
I think it absolutely said how teams felt about Bill Belichick, because obviously Bill's been more successful as a head coach. He's got a hell of a lot more rings than Pete does, but Pete is far more amenable to people around him. And yes, he has a way he wants to do business, but he doesn't tend to trot over people like Bill did. So there's still a feeling that he can relate to the younger set of players. And, he certainly he doesn't act like he's 74. I think we know that. You see him running around the field still, a couple of years ago with Seattle. He's insane. I would say, though, it's interesting. I think if Brady had his druthers, it was Ben Johnson. And I think the fact that they even got Ben Johnson to do an interview was almost like this is the kind of influence that maybe Tom can wield in that area going forward. But now you're sort of pivoting and going in a completely different direction. It's probably what they need, though, in terms of, that culture's been a mess for a long time. They haven't been very good.
5 coaches in 5 years, Mike. It's crazy, right? 5 head coaches.
Right? It's unbelievable.
In 5 years.
He should give them some stability. And I just wonder now, are they trying to attach, because it's a 3-year contract, because Pete, again, 74 years old, are they trying to attach someone to Pete to be the successor in waiting, if you will, and maybe obviously someone considerably younger to sort of, okay, Pete, you got the job, but part of your job too is going to be to mentor this kid, the next guy, to take your place, and we can continue to roll this program forward if it goes well. So that's interesting. And I did want to touch on the Jags thing real quick, because everybody, agents, coaches, assistant coaches, people didn't have a shot at the job, were like, if they keep Baalke, they're in trouble. No one's going to want to work for Balky. No one understands it. No one thinks he's any good. He's had 5 coaches that he's hired, and only one of them, Jim Harbaugh, in San Francisco, was good. And how long ago was that? 15 years ago?
Yep.
So it made no sense. And for them to finally come to the realization and do it is great. And Cohen is obviously an up-and-comer. But Ben Johnson was interested in that job. And he decided, I'm not interested if Balky's going to be there. So maybe they missed out on Ben Johnson, and they could be looking at Chicago a year or 2 from now going, really screwed the pooch on that one, didn't we?
All right, Mike. Well, we got the last Sunday with multiple NFL games staring us in the face. Champ Sunday, also known as my hotel alias. So we got to know who you got, as we worded it in our WEEI poll today for the afternoon show. 3 o'clock, Eagles, Commanders. 6:30, the Buffalo Bills against the Chefs and the Refs.
Yeah, so I think Philadelphia has shown that they can win when their quarterback isn't playing well. And I don't think Washington is capable of doing that. And Jaden's played awesome, but it just feels like maybe this is a year too soon, and Philly pulls that one out. And then I'm gonna ride with the Bills. I think it's time, And I'm not tired of the Chiefs. I think it's pretty awesome, and that certainly would be, if they go for the three-peat. I know that would make people here cringe, but that would be cool, and to be able to witness some history, but I like the idea of Buffalo getting to a Super Bowl and what Bills Mafia will do to New Orleans for that entire week.
He is Michael Giardi. He is a favorite guest here on WEEI Afternoons. He's also a tremendous read over at Boston Sports Journal. Mike, appreciate you joining us this week, and enjoy the games this weekend.
Congratulations, guys, on the new show. Enjoying it, and looking forward to coming back and harassing you guys again.
Well, thank
you, Mike.
Can't wait. Thanks, Mike.
Enjoying it. I don't know if he's lying or being truthful, but I'll take it. I'll take any compliment.
Because of all the beer I send him, that's all.
That's true. You do kind of buy him a praiseful end to a phone call there.